Good evening and welcome to the Quarry Valley Unified Union School District Board Meeting. It is August 9th. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first order of business is the approval of the agenda, and I have some changes for the agenda. So under new business, A, special education, snapshot from Bill, if you could remove that, and we'll move that to our September meeting. You can remove number 12. We have no need for an executive session. And under personnel, if you could add a B, we have a child care leave request.
I'll make the motion with changes.
Mike makes the motion with changes. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. General public comment. We have no public with us here at central office. Is there anyone joining that is a member of the public that wishes to speak? Seeing no one, we'll move on to old business. Is there any old business? Hearing none. New business. So we had the retreat, and for those of us that were here, we included in the board packet the goals that we came up with and a vision. Understanding that when we spoke about things that with the strategic plan and Patel for Kids, that these things are all going to kind of work into concert. So these are, as it says at the top, draft. So if you'd like, we could discuss it this evening, or we can just table it and put it for a discussion item at the September meeting. Pleasure of the board.
I think we should wait till the September meeting when we have more people attending.
Okay. Any objection? All right, we'll put that on as a September agenda item for discussion. Next order of business is the approval of the July 18 minutes. A motion will be in order to approve the minutes.
I'll make it.
Motion by Nate. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. In your packet, you have warrants. You receive your warrants via your GRCSU email. A motion would be in order to approve the warrants as presented.
I'll take this one, Nate. I make a motion to approve them as presented.
Motion by Sarah. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Superintendent's report, Chris.
Thanks, Lisa. It'll be rather brief. A lot of this is informative. During the summer, our focus is really on getting staffing completed, making sure that buildings are up and ready to go. And I know that making rounds and talking with building administrators, they've done a nice job over the course of the summer, just making sure everything's ready to go. And I think it's hard to believe the school is going to start in 3 weeks, but I think we're there. And I know that staff concerns are kind of buttoning up last minute things. I know from an SU standpoint, I know that our Director of Student Sports, Mr. Bill Bazyk, is working on completing some last minute hirings for our buildings. So we should be ready to go there. So I do thank the staff and the teachers that have I say volunteered, but they are being compensated for it, but have given up their time this summer to provide summer programming for our students. They've done a very nice job, and I think it's something which our families and our students really benefit from. In the packet, you've all seen, we have begun our PCB testing. The first school to go has been Polton Elementary School. I do believe Kristen, when I spoke with her the other day, had said that they would be drawing sample tests this week. So once they have drawn some samples, then we'll await the results, and we'll see what the next steps are. In the SU board packet on the 24th, there will be kind of a breakdown in terms of the dates for all the SU schools, which that was shared with you back in the spring, and I can reshare that with you again in September as part of our board packet. But they have stretched out our schools, particularly Quarry Valley, across over a span of 3 years. So I know that the last school in our SU is going July of 2025. So it's in a variety of reasons why we feel they've done that, but it will give us opportunity to kind of address our schools. So I think the nice about this from Quarry Valley perspective, we don't have all of our schools going at once. So if there are issues, it allows us to address schools on a one-on-one basis, and particularly if there's any major needs that we have to take care of, or building repairs, or hopefully not building closures. But we will start working on contingency plans just in case for a wide variety of scenarios with our building administrators around this. We did have the admin retreat, as you see, and that's just kind of just briefly highlighting some of the things that were touched upon. I know that you'll see that the goal for our administrators, once again, we focus on two areas. One is instructional leadership. It's kind of a continuation of what our goal was last year. We know that the single greatest factor to improvement student achievement is the quality of instruction that the kids have in front of them, or the quality of instructors. We want our building administrators to continue to be in classrooms, really providing high quality feedback and working with our staff on personal and professional development and growth. And so in order to do that, last year we worked very close with the University of Washington Center for Educational Leadership program. We met as an admin team and made the decision that the money that the financial cost of that was not necessarily worth where we're at. We felt that based on what we could do this year internally and moving forward, that we could provide a similar experience for our administrators at a much lower cost without going outsource. And the nice thing about this is we'll get our admins back in the building. They were out a lot last year attending these different programs. So I think we want our admins to be in the classrooms, be in the buildings, just really be visible and just kind of see what's going on. So that'll be an emphasis. We'll have more of an update on that as the year goes on. The second aspect is the MTSS model, the multi-tiered system of supports. You will hear a lot more about this as the year moves on, but this is something which is not necessarily new to education. It's maybe new to Vermont. I know that 20 years ago we were working with a different form of MTSS, RTI, and different iterations in other states. But with Act 173, the MTSS model has been something which schools are expected to put into place. I do believe our schools will benefit from this model, and basically what it boils down to is developing a very much more streamlined process of taking a look at our students, where they're at academically, socially, emotionally, and if there's a need for additional assistance, support, further resources. It's a much cleaner way of identifying which students really need that support, which would be, say, a layer 2 support, and if students really need more intensive needs, it'd be a layer 3. One of the things we have talked about is that in MTSS that it does work for students across the spectrum, which means that it's when we hear programs or systems of support, we tend to think of a student who might be struggling academically, or but we're also looking at how we can utilize this model for students who need more enrichment or more engaging learning experiences, that we might be able to find ways through a layer 2 or layer 3. Looking at combining programs, combining courses, or offerings for our students. So there are things that are in the works around that. At the very base of this is what's called layer 1. We used to call it tier 1, but now it's layer 1. But that is just universal best practices. So the crux of this is that all students will, on a regular basis, be exposed to high quality or instruction or best instructional practices. So, like I said, that's where the instructional leadership ties into that, as well as working with our staff. So it will be an effective model. I think, like I said, we'll see benefits of this. Parents will get more information from their building administrators, probably their back to school letters, as well as back to school night. So, but we'll talk a little bit more about that at a later time. So, and like I said, the rest is just really for informative purposes, just other information. So that's what I need. All right.
All right, any questions for Chris? Sarah?
Hey, so I know you said you were going to talk about MTSS more at a later meeting, but if there's a way to just briefly describe where do you see this particular framework as being pretty close to approaches that are currently being used in our schools, or is it something that's fairly different and is going to require kind of a lot of getting up to speed with?
So I think it's a good question, Sarah. So I think it would be a smoother transition than some of the other SU districts might experience. I know that some of our administrators have already put elements of this in place. One of the things we have found where the MTSS model will, I think, do a better job of is really identifying individuals who are in need of layer 2 supports or resources. I think when we looked at the data this summer, we found that large majority of students, say last year, who are receiving, say, intervention or supports or layer 2, really didn't need that, and students who actually needed that were not getting it. So it will provide a much cleaner way for us to accurately identify it. Is data driven. And the nice thing about this too, it's something which we, a group meets on a bi-monthly basis. We're constantly reevaluating plans, the effectiveness of the plans, and so if something is working, we'll continue with that. But if something's not working, we can quickly pivot and make adjustments. So it's not something where we just say, well, we hope this works out, and we just, do a bit of a triage at the end of the year. It really is a set of model which really allows us to kind of stay on top of things and really work with our students across the spectrum.
Any other questions? All right, thank you. Moving on to personnel. In your packet, you have a handout with contract recommendations under professional staff. For Poultney Elementary music teacher Samuel Rogers, a long-term sub at Proctor High School, Arlen Bloodworth. Poultney Elementary guidance, an increase from 0.5 to 1.0, Rebecca Eggleston. And for extracurricular, we have Chris Hughes, Proctor High varsity girls soccer co-coach. Scott French, Proctor High varsity girls co-coach. Curtis Tomlinson, Proctor varsity boys soccer co-coach. Ganna McKieran, Proctor varsity boys soccer co-coach. Dave Parker, Proctor junior high boys soccer coach. Christina Papandrea, Proctor High School honors band. Drew Kuchar, Proctor High art club advisor. Sarah Marcus, Proctor High rock climbing advisor. Senora Garcia, National Honor Society, Proctor High. Drew Kuchar, senior class advisor, Proctor High. Sarah Marcus, senior class advisor, Proctor High. Sarah Marcus, standards board, Proctor High School. Greg Mott, peer leadership, Proctor High co-advisor. Kim Knight, peer leadership co-advisor, Proctor High. Greg Mott, student council co-advisor, Proctor High. Kim Knight, student council co-advisor, Proctor High. Jeff Patch, Quarry Valley bass fishing coach. Bridget Shatra, Poultney Elementary after school program sub. Tina Crandell, Poultney Elementary after school program assistant. And Mallory McGinnis, Poultney Elementary after school program coordinator. Any questions about those recommendations?
I have a question.
Okay.
What is the standards board member? What does that entail?
So, standards board member, it works very closely it's like a liaison between the state and the schools, and so therefore, as a teacher is up for certification or, they're required to do professional development, monitoring. So what that individual does is it helps monitor and track. And so therefore, let's say if I'm a teacher and I'm up for certification, or I need to have a certain amount of credits or, hours, I will work with that standards board person, make sure that I've done everything I need to do, submitted all the proper paperwork to them, and then they'll verify with the state that I have met all the requirements, and then recommend myself for a renewal. So,
Okay. Does every high school of ours have one?
Yes.
yes, yeah, and so like I said, during this time, we'll probably see in September another wave of contract recommendations. It just depends on when people submit to the central office, these recommendations. So,
Okay, that's all I have, thank you.
Okay. Motion would be in order to approve as presented.
I'll make the motion.
I'll make the motion.
All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. So the addition to the agenda, which is in your packet, is the maternity leave update request. And so you see at the top that it'll be 60 days, additional 12 days will be unpaid. A motion would be in order to accept or to approve the request.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mike. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. You have in your packet updated staff for information only. And committee reports, we have minutes from the communication committee from June 7th. Is there anything to add to that?
We didn't meet in July, and we
Okay.
just met right before this meeting, so I'll have something next meeting.
Okay. And finance,
Kristen, do you wanna
Lewis.
say-
Oh, well, we're gonna float the communication plan to the rest of the board for materials for the next September meeting.
So it'll be in the packet.
It'll be, yeah.
Okay.
included with that.
The plan may actually go out a little bit earlier than the packet, just because
Yeah.
you might need a little more time to take a look at that.
Sure.
So.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
And can I add one more thing? I forgot. So handbooks. I forgot to mention that. So we've received copies of the handbooks. So Christine will be sending those out to all of you tomorrow to take a look at. And if there are any questions, we could discuss that at the next board meeting. Or if there's something more immediate, you could just reach out to myself or one of the building admins for a question around that. Okay. All right, sorry. Thank you.
Okay. Lewis.
Good evening. So in the packet is the year-end financials. I think it went out yesterday, possibly today, I'm not positive. So I just finished closing the year for all of our districts yesterday. So in the packet is the year-end financials as well as the one-page summary, which shows that we ended the year with a surplus of $815,000, which is pretty significant, larger than we had anticipated. And some of the significant items that are listed on the page. Some of the things, of course, that we didn't know about when I provided earlier forecast was there was a $141,000 special ed assessment refund. So our special ed fund ended with a surplus of $233,000. And we'll hear more about that at the SU meeting. In addition to that, we also received a $43,000 SPED disallow refund. So in the past, we've usually been charged additional amounts for the SPED disallows. This year, we actually came under our estimates. So our estimated times of ineligible special ed work was under what we had estimated. So we received a $43,000 refund. Other than that, I'll just go through some of the highlights. So our revenue, we had three big significant revenue increases. Our tuition revenue was up by approximately $165,000. We had an assessment refund from the SU that was from the prior year. So last year, the SU ended with a surplus. The SU board decided to refund that in this current year. So that was a $47,000 refund that was not budgeted. We had $17,000 in unanticipated state revenue for unenrolled tech students. So those are students that are attending a tech program but not enrolled in a high school. And there was both FY21 and FY22 revenues as part of that. The state neglected to pay those out in FY21, so paid them both out this year. So our budget is approximately 80% salaries across the whole district. When you add up all the salaries and benefits, we were only off by about $2,000, $2,500 total. So that's after all the settlements this year, pluses and minuses for shortages or leaves, when you take everything into account. So that's pretty close there. Professional services, which is mostly Kelly Services, was under by $50,000, and that was really due to a lack of the ability to find subs in some of our towns. All of the supply, equipment, and dues and fees lines, the sum of all of those were underspent by $114,000. Repair lines were underspent by $149,000, and that's due to the ability to find vendors to do some of the work that we have planned. Transportation savings were $29,000, and interest savings was $53,000. And then there was one set category that was overspent, and that was pre-K tuition across the three towns. In addition to the surplus, we also have 3 fund balances. We have an HRA reserve. That's a reserve that we put all our HRA funds in each year, and then as the employees use their HRA dollars, it comes out of that fund. We ended the year with a surplus of $110,000. Capital improvement fund, we have $20,000. This would be separate from the money that we have to put in from last year's surplus. That has not been added to that yet. And then the preschool grant is $789,000. Any questions?
$789.
Right, ask him that again.
$789.
Correct.
Okay, you said thousand.
Oh, I'm
got a
sorry.
couple
$789.
I was like, okay.
And again, so these reserve funds don't include the 2 reserve funds from last year's surplus.
Okay, Mike has a question.
Where do we stand with our vans, Louis?
One special ed van came in last week. We were hoping that would be the one that we were going to send over to be converted, but it has the one we ordered 2 with bench seats and 1 with bucket seats in the second row, and the one that happened to come in was the bucket seat van, and based on the way the conversion works, it works better if it's a bench seat in the second row. So that so right now we're waiting for a bench seat one so that we can send that off to be converted, and we are waiting for the other bench seat van. So we're hoping that they all come in before school starts, but we're really at the mercy of the vehicle shortage.
And where is this van?
Thank you.
And where's the first van going?
That will be up to the Bill Bazyk to decide based on the needs. I'm not sure at this point.
Okay.
That would probably be a good question for an SU meeting.
Sure. Okay. Do you have more, Louis?
That's all I have for tonight.
Okay. Any other questions for Louis? So from the 815, that's what we're gonna look at for March to determine if we want to put anything in those other 2 sinking funds that we hold?
Correct, yes. So if the board wanted to put more money into a sinking fund, those would be items that we put on the March ballot.
Okay.
Now that the year's closed, my focus changes. The last 6 weeks have really been focused on closing the year, reconciling. I reconcile every account. And now the focus shifts on budget and getting prepared for that. And I'll start preparing those documents for administrators to work with and for the boards. So those conversations will really ramp up starting in September.
Okay. I do think that when we start talking about budget, it's good to have that 815 number on a document someplace, just to remind people that's what we have, because we are going to be talking about, just based on some of the things building administrator spoke about, but possible talking about some kind of building improvements. So it's good just as a point of reference and reminder when we're speaking about budgets to know that that's what the surplus is that we have to look at.
Yeah, so that number will go in as a revenue item, and the full amount will go in when we look at the first draft of the budget. And then as we make decisions to not use it all, then we'll adjust it out.
Okay. All right. Future meeting dates, September 19th, which is, we're going to be discussing budgets primarily, and we'll look at the board goals and visions there. So I think the desire is at that meeting, unless there's something substantial other than like contract recommendations, maybe we'll be talking about what? Maybe about MTSS, bills coming, and then we're gonna have the first draft of the budget.
There might be some policies just to
Okay.
move through, so.
So, that seems like a lot, particularly for the first draft of the budget, so, yeah.
Are we gonna adjust the time for that meeting or still meet at the same?
That is the discussion for the board.
Sorry, what was the question? I didn't quite hear it.
If the board, Mike wants to know if we're going to continue to meet at 6:15 or if the board wants to move back till 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
I think we did it because Kirsten had a conflict. Am I correct?
Yes.
I mean, I would just be potentially late every single month, every time, for just for this semester. But,
Yeah.
you know, I can get here as soon as I can get here from Castleton, so.
Right.
Or I can, if it seems like I'm not gonna make it, I can do remote, although I'd prefer to be in person if I can, so, for budget talks and stuff, but I'll just kinda look at the time and see. If
Well, I
6 is
mean,
better
that-
for most, then I'll do my best to be done.
It's, decision of the board. If there's someone want to make a motion, is there a consensus?
Does Kristen still meet till 6:15? I couldn't hear what you guys were saying.
Sorry, I can try my best to be there at 6. There may be occasion that I will be late because I go till 5:30 on Mondays, but I can, if I can be done, get my kids done, then I'll get in my car and get here. And I'll just try to let y'all know if I'm gonna be a couple minutes late. So.
Sure.
So if 6 works better for Tom and other folks, that's fine. And for me, it's only a few months. It's the budget season months, but I switch again in, January, so.
So, I don't, what's
So
the
6
pleasure?
o'clock, 6 o'clock is fine if that's better for us.
Okay.
We get done a little bit earlier then, hopefully,
Well,
right?
with budget, I
Correct.
don't know.
Because these meetings are generally long
Long,
coming
yeah.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make a motion to move it to 6? Consensus?
So, motion by Mike to move meetings to 6 o'clock. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. So the next meeting will be, the September meeting will be at 6 o'clock. Okay, I just want to think about the September. If we're are we having like an in-depth discussion about MTSS? Because that's like a whole.
We can hold off on that if that.
Okay, I'm just thinking if Bill's coming with special ed, that's a whole snapshot. And first draft of the budget, and then just everything else.
Well,
I just don't want.
Do you want Bill's snapshot? He can actually deliver that at the SU meeting on the 24th. And
Okay.
then if there is any information that needs
And
to
then
be shared
we
with
could just
local.
include it in the packet for Quarry Valley.
Correct. So Bill could do that at SU
Okay.
level and we could take that off.
Okay, so then we could, all right, so if we do MTSS and budget, then that would be fine. It's just, those three things together seemed a little heavy, so.
And we could, if you want, just, if MTSS needs to be pushed off, we can do that in October, so, that
Okay,
could be-
because we're also doing board goal and vision too.
Right.
So,
And October might be our second draft, right, for the
Right.
budget, so
right,
that may not take as much, but then again, it may take more, depending on.
yeah. So I think if we do MTSS, goal and vision and budget, that, and hopefully there won't be a lot of other stuff on, and then we'll just include Bill's snapshot from the SU. That should be fine then.
Yep.
Because otherwise it's just gonna be repetitive, I think.
The policies, we do have policies, and if we put them off, we'll have too many.
Yeah, but policies are usually pretty quick,
We can, yeah,
because they're gonna be first read, so it's just reading through them.
but there are some that, we're gonna get to the point where we are starting from scratch in terms of wording, because we're creating our own, and that's where we'll need more full board
Okay.
input, so,
All right,
But-
hopefully we'll be like
yeah.
a little bit out of budgets
We've
before
been
we
pushing
start.
those off anyway, so we'll
Yeah.
try to get the other ones done first, but.
Okay. So if anyone has, another agenda item, if you can get it to myself, Chris or Kristen by, the 12th of September. I don't even know what day of the week that is, but, a Monday.
It's the 19th is a Monday, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's a Monday.
okay.
Monday before.
Yeah, that would be great. But unless it's really pertinent, I think particularly going into budgets, just being able to focus on those is going to be the top priority. So, anything else to come before the board? All right, a motion would be in order to adjourn at 6:49.
I'll make that
Make
motion.
both.
Motion by Nate, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you all for joining.